Chapter 209. Guardian. Just a moment later, the governor of Nanyu quickly composed himself. With a fist and palm salute, he inquired respectfully and cautiously, "May the first ask the Prince of Wan, why did you come to my Nanyu prefecture to search for this person? Under the rule of the great Zhou dynasty, only a few individuals could claim themselves as this prince. In the great Zhou's 24 states, apart from the empress, there were 3 more noble families, each owning their own fiefdom. These families held positions higher than the rulers of individual states, and their ancestors' military contributions and achievements were monumental, worthy of a state's fiefdom. Taking into account the surname Pei that the other party mentioned, the identity of the man in front was clear. In the Pei family, the only individual young enough to bear the title of prince was none other than the Prince of Wan, Pei Shengshu. He served at the Northern Great Wall for 10 years, striking fear into the demon race with his heroic bloodline. A heavenly martial soldier fixed his gaze on the governor of Nanyu and sneered flippantly, "Should our prince have to explain every little move to you, and he is here to apprehend someone?" The governor of Nanyu felt disgruntled, anger showing in his eyes. He was, after all, the ruler of an entire state, carrying its administrative responsibilities. With such a stature, there should be only 24 within the whole great Zhou dynasty. Even if these men from the heavenly martial army served in the emperor's court, their arrogance was unsurpassed. How dared they to shout in the presence of such a high-ranking official? "That's enough," Pei Shengshu, the Prince of Wan, merely interjected. His hair was parted in the middle, and his demeanor was fresh and vigorous. The heavenly martial soldier immediately shrunk his head, showing a respectful expression, and didn't dare to utter another word. Pei Shengshu answered in a breezy tone. According to the news from the government posts and in Fuyao State, a young man and woman have been seen passing through the city and were reportedly seen on a boat to Nanyu Prefecture. There's no need for the governor to worry. Immortal Gate has sent me here to handle this issue. The governor of Nanyu listened attentively, and his heart stirred slightly. Pei Shengshu said it was Immortal Gate who sent him, suggesting that the warrants were not issued by the court but by the command of Immortal Gate, the Wu Liangqie. Did this mean that the Pei family had aligned themselves with the Immortal Gate? As for the Empress orders, they were mostly sidelining for the time being. The attitude of the Immortal Gate compelled the Pei family to act. The thought of the court becoming a puppet of the Immortal Gate was hard to fathom. Upon further thought, the governor of Nanyu deemed it plausible. The Pei family's cultivators were originally from one of the 9 great Immortal Gates, the Teiken Heaven. After helping to stabilize the great Zhou dynasty, the Pei family was considered a founding hero. Essentially, they were still members of the Immortal Gate. With this consideration in mind, the governor of Nanyu couldn't help feeling uneasy. The great Zhou's court used to stand on equal footing with the Immortal Gate. However, since the death of the former emperor, the court had gradually become subservient to the Immortal Gate. In that case, I will immediately issue a warrant for their arrest across the entire province, centered around Nanyu Prefecture, and have all the local officials search for these 2. The governor of Nanyu bowed to Pei Shengshu. The streets of Nanyu Prefecture were bustling with activity, and the inn was swarming with patrons coming and going. Han Yi rested his chin on his hands, staring blankly at the empty bowl on the table. His gaze then shifted to Chu Xiangyu, who was now wearing a white dress and slowly slurping her noodles. The red bridal dress was too conspicuous, so he had bought her a new outfit after entering the city. Miss Chu didn't bring anything when she came out. Even her storage ring and spatial bracelet were missing, leaving Han Yi to cover all the costs. Truth be told, he didn't have much money on him, but he had a lot of spirit stones. But for ordinary people, the denomination of spirit stones was way too large. One did not need a spirit stone to buy a bowl of noodles. Han Yi propped up his chin, unblinkingly watching as Chu Xiongnu finished her bowl of noodles. No matter how much he looked at her, he never got tired of her charmingly flawless face. She looked exceedingly out of place in the plain surroundings of the inn, like a divine maiden in a painting, exuding a faint aura of immortality. Her appearance frequently drew the secretive gazes of onlookers. From their expressions, Han Yi didn't need to guess what they were thinking. They must be thinking things like, "There is such a beautiful woman in this world, this woman must have descended from the heavens, she must be a disciple from the sect." "Miss Chu, can't you put on a veil and talk to me?" Han Yi lightly tapped the table with his knuckles and spoke softly. Upon hearing his words, Chu Xianyu lifted her head slightly and shook her head. Her eyes were filled with disappointment, loss, frustration, and other negative emotions. In Han Ye's eyes, although she was as beautiful as a celestial nymph, her eyes had lost their previous depth of character. There was no light in them. It was as if she had lost her soul. He didn't know what had happened to her in these 3 years. Han Yi quickly reached out and held Chu Xianyu's right hand, intending to channel some magic power into her body. But he quickly realized that he couldn't use his magic power, otherwise, his body would shatter instantly. He could only hold her hand and whisper, "I once promised that I would cure you one day." Even after 3 years, that promise still stands. Chu Xianyu didn't resist or speak. She just pointed at Han Yi and shook her head gently. It was as if she was saying, "You should worry about yourself first." But Han Yi didn't worry much about his own condition, and he smiled slightly. "I still remember when we first met. I was very weak, with only cultivation. You were always protecting me with your sword.